Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's daily devotional. I had a dental procedure last night, and I'm very, very sore today. It's throbbing pretty good, so I'm going to keep this short and sweet this evening, relatively for me anyway. So, I picked up on an article that was posted today. The title of it: Scientists confirm entirely new species of gelatinous blob from the deep dark sea. Okay, Michael, now you're just sounding like a news caster here. Well, there's a point to this. I'm not going to read the entire article, but for the first time, scientists with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration have formally identified a new species of undersea creature based solely on high-definition video footage captured at the bottom of the ocean. And what an undersea creature it is. Meet Durobrachium, Sparks something. A strange gelatinous species of cenophore encountered by the remotely operated vehicle Deep Discoverer during a dive off the coast of Puerto Rico. And so this is a picture of this weird looking MacGuffin, whatever this thing is. Apparently it's kind of like a jellyfish, but let's see. It says we don't have the same microscopes as we would in a lab, but the video can give us enough information to understand the morphology and details, such as the location of the reproductive parts and other aspects. These aspects are manifold. From a distance, this thing's most notable feature is its bulbous balloon-like body, but it also features two prominent tentacle arms. Goes on to say it was a beautiful and unique organism, says oceanographer Mike Ford. It moved like a hot air balloon attached to the sea floor on two lines, maintaining a specific altitude above the sea floor. Whether it's attached to the seabed, we're not sure. We did not observe direct attachment during the dive, but it seems like the organism touches the sea floor. The other specimens may not have been touching the seabed, but all three of the animals were spotted within 2 meters of it in a feature called the Arecibo Amphitheater, which lies within an underwater trench known as the Guajataca Canyon. It's in these very deep parts of the ocean where cenophores are found, but the extreme depth of their natural habitat means we don't encounter these mysterious animals, let alone new species, very often. Cenophores go by a number of common names, many of which seem almost comical. Comb jellies is the most popular, but they have also been referred to as sea gooseberries, sea walnuts, and Venus's girdles. Check that thing out. It is a weird-looking deal right there. While the animals can superficially resemble jellyfish, they are not closely related. Cenophores, which are carnivorous, subsist on small arthropods and various kinds of larvae. Up to 200 species have been described to date, with about one new species being found each year on average. Let's see. I think that was pretty much everything that I wanted to look at here. While the team hopes to collect specimens on future dives for physical analysis, they say it might be decades before they have the chance to run into the comb jelly again. For that dude's sake, it might be for the best. Bringing a gelatinous blob up to sea level when it normally resides about 4 kilometers under the ocean's surface can be a messy affair. Even if we had the equipment, there would have been very little time to process the animal because gelatinous animals don't preserve very well. Cenophores are even worse than jellyfish in this regard. So, okay, honestly, that is a weird looking thing. But by far, this is not the weirdest animal that has been found in the deep ocean, or I say animal, sea creature that has been found in the deep ocean. You can search and find all kinds of crazy looking things that God has created that inhabit the oceans. And so I was looking at that article, and it just kind of occurred to me not only the creativity of God in creating all of these creatures, but just the majesty that when even now today, with all the technology we have, we are finding animals and creatures that have never been seen before. And these are creatures that just kind of push the imagination and challenge us in terms of what an amazing type of creature this is. And it just goes to show the wisdom of God and the power that He has and that He has shown in creation. And this is part of the reason why we read not only obviously in Genesis about creation, but at times people like David kind of wax philosophical, looking at all of creation and then asking, "What is man that thou art mindful of him?" But in Job chapter 38, out of all of the passages that I was thinking about with regard to the majesty of the creation of God, this one actually kind of came to the top in my head. Job 38, starting in verse 1. Obviously, Job has made the mistake of questioning the wisdom of God and allowing a righteous man to suffer without obvious reason. Job has, in essence, asked, "Hey, I have done everything that I'm supposed to do. I've done nothing wrong. Is it wise to let righteous people suffer in this way?" Well, God responds, for instance, here in chapter 38 and in verse 1. "The Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now prepare yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? To what were its foundations fastened? Or who laid its cornerstone when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst forth and issued from the womb, when I made the clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, when I fixed my limit for it and set bars and doors?" Going into chapter 40, we see we read about a beast called the behemoth. For instance, in here it is, verse 15. It says, "Look now at the behemoth which I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. See now his strength is in his hips. His power is in his stomach muscles. He moves his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are tightly knit. His bones are like beams of bronze, his ribs like bars of iron. He is the first in the ways of God. Only he who made him can bring near his sword. Surely the mountains yield food for him, and all the beasts of the field play there. He lies under the lotus trees in a covert of reeds and marsh." And so it kind of talks a little bit about, this behemoth and just how massive this thing is. And of course, we can speculate all day as to what kind of creature this was. Was it a dinosaur? Maybe. Was it a creature that maybe we have a form of today? Maybe. But then in Job chapter 41, we have Leviathan. And interestingly, while the term behemoth is only used this one time in Job chapter 40, Leviathan comes up several times. God asks, "Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook, or snare his tongue with a line you lower? Can you put a reed through his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many supplications to you? Will he speak softly to you? Will he make a covenant with you? Will you take him as a servant forever? Will you play with him with a bird, or will you leash him for your maidens? Will your companions make a banquet?" Verse 7, "Can you fill his skin with harpoons?" I mean, it goes on to say these are all rhetorical questions from God. "Lay your hand on him, remember the battle, never do it again." Okay, this is apparently Leviathan is a fierce beast. It says, "No one is so fierce that he would dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand against me?" And the whole idea is, if I created Leviathan, and Leviathan would seem to be one of the most powerful animals, at least in Job's experience that he knows of, that God can point to and say, hey, then who would stand against me? So, but it's interesting that he goes on to talk about his outer coat, the doors of his face, his terrible teeth, the rows of scales, which would seem to imply a sea creature that is being described potentially, or some kind of lizard perhaps type thing. But it's interesting because sneezings flash forth light. His eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Some people have suggested maybe this was a dragon type of creature. Could be. But it's really interesting. His breath kindles coals, flame goes out of his mouth. This creature was terrifying. This would have been a terrifying creature, and darts are regarded as straw. It's not like man can do anything to it. He laughs at the threat of javelins. All of this being the case, in Psalm 104 and in verse 20. Start in verse 19, actually. It says, He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knows it's going down. You make darkness, and it is night, in which all the beasts of the forest creep about. The young lions roar after their prey, and they seek their food from God. When the sun rises, they gather together and lie down in their dens. Man goes out to his work and to his labor until the evening. O Lord, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your possessions. This great and wide sea, in which are innumerable teeming things, living things both small and great, where the ships sail about, there is that Leviathan which you have made to play there. These all wait for you, that you may give them their food in due season. What you give them they gather in. You open your hand and they are filled with good. You hide your face and they are troubled. You take away their breath. They die and return to their dust. You send forth your spirit, they are created. You renew the face of the earth. May the glory of the Lord endure forever. May the Lord rejoice in his works. He looks on the earth and it trembles. He touches the hills and they smoke. I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. I will sing praise to my God while I have my being. May my meditation be sweet to him. I will be glad in the Lord. It's the psalmist. It's interesting how, just as we were admiring this strange creature that they've discovered at the bottom of the ocean, and as I said, so many odd things that exist where there is no light at the bottom of the ocean. There's extreme pressures, and these creatures thrive. And the very thought process that you and I had as we were thinking about that creature, the psalmist has the exact same thought. How manifold are your works, in wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your possessions. And then he talks about the sea, in which are innumerable teeming things, living things both small and great. Makes you think that the psalmist maybe knew something even at this time before man even had a chance to go and explore the depths of the ocean. Obviously he did. There seemed to be, obviously some recognition, observation. One could even make the argument maybe there's obviously the psalmist being inspired, but it goes to show and it goes to remind us that our God in his wisdom has created all of these things. And when you put that into perspective, how small our troubles are ultimately, how in comparison to the power of God, how truly tiny and minuscule we are in the full view of creation. And yet, as David acknowledged and as David observed, yet he is mindful of us. And I think it just goes to remind us that our God truly is great, and that he is mindful of his people, and that he has made all of these creatures for us to admire his power and obviously his creativity in creating these things. All right, everybody, that's the daily devotional for you today. I actually meant it only to be about 10 minutes or so. It ended up being 15 minutes. But I appreciate everybody joining us today. We'll plan to have a daily devotional tomorrow at 6:30, Lord willing. Hopefully my mouth will be feeling a little bit better. But I hope everybody kind of enjoyed that kind of look back at specifically Leviathan and the wisdom of God in creation. All right, everybody, y'all have a great night, Lord willing. We'll see you tomorrow.